key to survival is knowing and understanding when to be still, when to be quiet, and when to go unnoticed. For those who are awake, you know that the majority of the human population is a threat, is dangerous, is destructive, and most of them operate or thrive on a collective hive. They're not that intelligent. Their life consciousness cycle runs in a very small circle. They are breeders and feeders, and they don't really expand outside of that system or that cycle much. So once you understand the psyche or the composition of the majority of the populace, that'll give you an idea of how to prepare. So what we're looking at is some post-apocalyptic images, and this is a bit dramatic, but I just wanted the picture to be very clear, because as we move forward in this country, we're seeing the demographic shifting. We're seeing the quote unquote globalism agenda play itself out. Most of the pharmaceuticals that are coming into this country are coming through India. South Asians or Indians and other Asians or Indians are pretty much being handed the medical industry in the United States, and that is something to seriously be concerned about if you are medication dependent at this time. I would encourage you to look into some alternatives and that sort of thing. People from that part of the world have been inserting themselves into our culture and our society as of late. This is a population of people who have contributed nothing to the building of our country, our culture, or anything. They're pretty much showing up after the work has already been done, after the smoke has cleared. But yet we see this narrative being played out with certain individuals from that part of the world being handed these privileges, so to speak, and you have to question. You have to question it and ask yourself why. Why this group? Why now? So when we look at the majority of the affordable medication, particularly the medication that's coming out of Walmart, medication in which you'll pay like $1 for, or sometimes you'll get it for free, you have to question why that's coming from India. Now, India has its own set of issues. Why these PhDs and these advanced degreed individuals from that part of the world are not staying there and trying to improve the quality of life for people who live in that part of the world is very telling, but they're coming here. So Americans are essentially, I would say, asleep. We're in some sort of induced sleep or coma where we are actually witnessing, or some of us are witnessing, this exchange. We're seeing foreigners coming in and replacing the native population, integral Americans or red-blooded Americans, if you will. And no one's really saying anything. And if people are saying things, they're not mobilizing. They're not mobilizing or anything. There's no movement. There's nothing. No one's speaking out because of the whole the narrative for social justice and borderless societies and globalism is a lot louder than anybody's voice at this point. But what is very clear is that this is a heavy, a harsh push for population replacement. Population replacement, as in Asians of every sort, Middle Easterns and Africans coming into the United States and other parts of the West and replacing the indigenous population. And again, it's not being spoken about. It's not. There's nothing. People are just standing by and watching this happen. And going back to the medical industry, how we're seeing all of these Asian doctors, sub-Asian doctors, pretty much dominating the industry. You have to question if you should be listening to advice from people who are here to replace you. Should you be taking medication from people who are here to replace you? Because while it may seem like a new age, a new push, a new society, good intentions pave the way to hell, so to speak. So, what looks like something good, something progressive, enforced by our government or the quote unquote powers that be, likely is not a good thing underneath when you peel back the layers. And people from that part of the world are white supremacist sympathizers for the most part. They're colorists. There are histories and pretty well publicized incidents of racism and violence in India with people who are deeper complected. There's a great deal of mental illness amongst people from that part of the world who take issue with their own skin color based on, whatever past history was there. So to have them here interacting with our people, our poor people, our people of color, it's just very suspicious. So in order to survive, you really have to understand what you're looking at. You have to question things and not wait for anyone to validate what you're seeing. It is okay to see what you're seeing and to question it. That's number one, okay, is listening to yourself, learning how to listen to yourself, and deprogramming from the need of groupthink or the need of group approval, which is what the majority of the human population thrives on or lives in some sort of conjunction with. So, understanding it's okay to be alone, moving alone, operating alone, thinking, and thinking from the perspective of somebody who is in the position of being alone, because that may be your safest bet in some instances, particularly seeing how many people are more geared towards groupthink. So, again, learning how to be quiet, even during emotionally charged situations and incidences, learning how to avoid conflict, little things like avoiding eye contact, situational awareness, knowing what's around you, taking an extra step and effort to to be physically neutral when you're out and about in public. Don't be afraid to take an extra step to the side and not walk so close to somebody you don't know. I mean, these days, anything could set somebody off. We're living in a time where up is down and down is up. It is literally the twilight zone, and you never know really what to expect from people these days. Between mental illness, the drugs that are coming in from Asia, south of the border, specifically designed to really, affect the American population in a way that renders them defenseless, really, is what the agenda is. Another thing that's going to aid this takeover or make it a lot more smoother, this transition of us being replaced in our own country, you just don't know what to expect. So, you just want to do what you can to stay safe. No confrontations, learning how to walk away, carrying mace with you, carrying something that's illegal, some sort of legal self protection method. And again, avoiding eye contact, sometimes wearing earbuds, even if you're not listening to anything. sometimes, that's the best thing to do. People are less likely to disturb you if they see that you are, if you have earpieces in, they may assume you're on the phone. You can pretend like you're having a conversation, or you can bop your head pretending as if you are listening to music. Wear shades so that people aren't able to garner your attention, or see who has your attention, where your attention is, so they can't try to manipulate that in some way. So there are several ways, many ways to protect yourself moving forward. But one thing is for sure is that you should have some level of social behavioral practices moving forward, with the people with the psych issues that are running around out there, the drugs, these foreigners, people that have this attitude, this superiority attitude, who are looking to prove themselves by getting into altercations with Americans, or whatever the case may be. The best course of action is to be preventative, and to think and to be able to walk away. Do not get emotional, and just be as preventative as you can, because ultimately, I mean, what's happening here is essentially all of these anti forces that are here for, I would have to say, dishonorable purposes. I see them all as basically being in a car together, trying to outdo each other, going 1,000 miles an hour towards a brick wall. This is how I see what's going on. They're all trying to outdo each other. They all eventually, it'll all be a fight for power, whether it's people from the Middle East, or the Sub-Asians, or the Far East, or wherever they come from. People are seeing America as an open, free for all, basically, and they're seeing it as an opportunity to be able to get their heels in and establish some sort of power with their identity politics. So, but I see it crashing and burning. I don't think these people are going to get anywhere near where they think they will. But it's very important that for those who are being for those of us that may feel like we're being subjugated, being marginalized, or being set up to be sabotaged, it's very important that you survive and you take those steps and make the effort to do what you have to do to make it to the other side of this madness. So that's my advice. Those are my tips. See you in the next vid.